Hi, everyone. So I'm going to introduce myself in just a minute, but I thought I would change it up a little bit and share the destination of where we're going to head in our talk today. So imagine this. For our business at Express, the busiest e-commerce days are really around Black Friday and Cyber Monday. Well, in 2020, we had a situation where an overly aggressive promotion on a day in between Black Friday and Cyber Monday went viral. And we saw a spike in traffic that was more than 3 times higher than our busiest hour of Black Friday. To give you a bigger sense of scale for this, the peak hour was nearly 10% of all of Commerce Tools transactions in that hour, based on some of the things that Commerce Tools has put out there around the 2020 holiday season. If this had occurred in our legacy implementation, systems would have crashed, we would have lost sales, and we'd have spent hours bringing the system back online. With our Commerce Tools implementation, we first identified the situation when we got alerts that our systems were auto-scaling, and we carefully watched the performance of the business, and we made some decisions to curtail the promotion. That's it. During the time, we saw almost no degradation of performance. Those millisecond response times held in there, and I don't think our customers even noticed a blip. So, almost a non-story, but it takes a lot to get there. So who am I? I'm Greg Fancher. I'm the Chief Technology Officer for Express, and I'm responsible for the technology in our stores, e-commerce, and our home office. And what is Express? We are a fashion apparel brand and a styling community whose purpose is to create confidence and inspire self-expression. Oh, sorry about that. From wardrobe essentials to the latest trends, we outfit the doers, the makers, the movers, and the shakers with clothing that is designed for real-life versatility. At Express, we believe that everyone should dream big and dress accordingly. So some facts about Express. Launched in 1980, we currently have over 500 retail and factory outlet stores in the United States and Puerto Rico, as well as a significant online business. We have approximately $2 billion in annual sales, and we are headquartered in Columbus, Ohio, which is where I am right now. Our e-commerce environment, which I'd imagine you're probably a little bit more interested in, I'll give you some details there. So we currently run our website, which is express.com, a mobile app on both Android and iOS. We don't publicly report our e-commerce sales volume. However, the last time we did was in 2018, and it was more than 25% of our business. Given all the changes, you can imagine that those numbers might have shifted a little bit, especially with COVID. So one of the things we shifted away from reporting our e-commerce performance was because we really started merging our in-store and online capabilities. And so that includes in-store online ordering online and shipping from store, buying online, picking up in store, and buying online and picking up curbside. So our stack, primarily it's React, GraphQL. We have Adobe Experience Manager, Commerce Tools, of course, and Manhattan for order management. Before Commerce Tools, we ran an e-commerce stack that was about 10 years old. It was not really a stack, it was more monolithic ATG instance right here in our data center in Columbus. As end-of-life implementation, we lacked support. Changes were hard and expensive, and performance and scalability were a constant concern. So here's the question. How do you transition a business-critical, customer-facing, transactional system responsible for more than a quarter of your revenue from a 10-year-old legacy implementation over to a radically different modern commerce environment without missing a beat? And how do you do it during a global pandemic when all of your brick and mortar stores are closed and e-commerce is the company's only source of revenue? Well, I'll tell you, we put a lot of thought into that. And, when we think about how we implemented it, what you need just to remember is that you've got a system that has many, many modifications, corrections, customizations, optimizations, and bug fixes that have all been layered on over 10 years. We've also had turnover in the organization. Very few people were around who were around from the beginning of the ATG implementation. And maybe not all of the emergency fixes and changes were fully documented. So it's sort of hard to know 100% what every edge case expected behavior is. And documentation, like I said, may not always be the top priority. So when you think about that, you start to get some unexpected behavior, things that one might even think the system was haunted, but we'll talk about that more in a couple of minutes. So if you were going to take that monolithic system and replace it with another monolithic system, there's a pretty straightforward way you would need to do that. You would basically look at building the new system, testing it like crazy, converting the data from the old system to the new system, test a whole bunch more, implement Big Bang, hope you didn't miss anything, and really hope that if your backup plan, if you actually had one, works really well. So I've done that before, and I'm not interested in doing the same. You could, if you really wanted to understand more about some of the history there, you could take a look at Gap Inc. when they replaced their e-commerce system quite some time ago. I'm not going to say how long ago because that sort of dates me. But basically, when we were looking at this implementation at Express, we said no Big Bang. Okay, that's great. So what did we do? Well, when you think about the fact that we're going to a composable commerce approach, we basically were able to transition in a number of steps. So the first thing we did is we migrated our production catalog, our product catalog from ATG to Commerce Tools. Okay. And then we built out the new site on AWS using React and GraphQL. We connected the new site to Commerce Tools for the product detail page, the session, bag, and checkout. And then we connected Commerce Tools to our order management system. And then we did extensive performance engineering. We also developed a great strategy for being able to make production updates for the Commerce Tools environment. And we called it our blue-green strategy. So basically what we had is 2 full production environments that rotate from being primary to secondary. That allows us to make changes in the secondary production environment and swap it to being primary. If there are any issues when we make that change, we can quickly switch back to the other environment so that there's really a minimal impact on our customers. That's an invaluable process that I would encourage everyone to do. So the next thing we did is we developed a validation process, a way to really look at all of the transactions that were coming through. And that validation process was coupled with a transition process to go from Commerce Tools really sitting in the background to Commerce Tools being our main production environment. We called it Ghostbusting. The idea here was that to develop a way to identify any ghosts or unexplained behavior in the current solution so that we could see if that would cause any problems for our customers, and we would be able to fix it before there was any impact. Because at the end of the day, when you really think about the testing you do before you put something into production, you can't test every possible thing. There's just so many variety of things that our customers do sort of out in the wild, and we really wanted a way to be able to validate that. So to get into a little more detail about what we mean here, if you think about our environment, you basically cluster it into 3 chunks of capability. So you've got the front end, and for us, that's express.com, our mobile apps, and our in-store e-commerce. Then you've got the commerce engine. So that was ATG, and we're transitioning that to commerce tools, and our order management system, which was Manhattan and still is Manhattan. So as a first step, all of your traffic from your legacy production, it flows from the front end of express.com, the app and in-store, into ATG. In ATG, that traffic then converts into orders that then flow into the order management system. The ghostbusting approach was to connect commerce tools to the front ends in a passive mode. So every action that landed into ATG would also land into commerce tools. Okay, so anything like pulling up a product page to adding to bag, checkout, total calculations, and everything. So basically what we could do is we could look at the output from commerce tools and compare it to the output from the legacy environment and make sure everything matched appropriately. We could also make sure that nothing in commerce tools broke and that the performance was where it should be. Okay, and that those output orders were formed in a way that our order management system could accept, and that we would get out any of the edge cases very quickly. So we ran that for a while, and we did find some things. We found some performance issues. We found some edge cases that we had never really seen before or had seen before and maybe forgotten, and got those taken care of. Okay, so once we felt like we really had a handle on a broad set of capability and it was relatively solid, we moved into what we call a split traffic mode. Okay, so traffic from the front end was split between ATG and commerce tools. And then those engines would actually both flow into the order management system. This allowed us to ensure that regardless of the e-commerce engine being used, we had a single body of orders and consistent data. So an order would come into the front end, and then we could select which e-commerce engine it would go into, and then it would join back up in the back end. Okay, so we did that for a while, and we started with a very small percentage of traffic flowing into commerce tools. We kept a very close eye on our error logs, on site response time, and all of the important business KPIs like conversion, units per transaction, average order value, and then like where people would drop out of the funnel. Our teams met daily, and we looked at all of those performance metrics to make sure that we were getting expected results. If anything looked off, we'd go back, take a look, replay sessions, and maybe make some changes. We met daily, and over time, we increased the percentage of transactions that were flowing onto commerce tools. And from there, we just ratcheted up and up, identified some learnings, dialed back down commerce tools, gave us an opportunity to make changes, especially around things around scale, and then increase it back up again. It took about 3 months. And just to remind everyone, that was 3 months when this was our only source of revenue for the company. So we're very careful and really minimized any impacts on our customers. And then in July of 2020 is really when we completely moved over to commerce tools. And then at that point, when all our transactions were running in commerce tools, we kept ATG running in a parallel mode. Just in case something would happen, we'd be able to revert back to ATG and have it go through our order management system. And then in the end of July, when we're very confident that things are running well for our express.com, we transitioned the app over to commerce tools and then finally shut off ATG. Okay, so the results. I think for us, there are a couple things we look at, not just that one day in November, which was a dramatic display of the resiliency of our new site and how much better it was compared to our old system. But we have a couple of other areas that I would just want to share. One is site performance, and the other is our ability to innovate. So in site performance, through all the extensive analysis during the transition, we saw an increase in site performance that drove improved conversion. So when I say site performance, I mean literally response time. And specifically drilling into it deeper, for most transactions, our current solution was okay, but there were a set of outliers that took a lot longer. And what we noticed when we were really doing a lot of the analysis is that for commerce tools, there are a lot fewer outlier transactions, and those outlier transactions were much faster. The response times were much better on those very complicated, extended duration transactions. And so that's where we really picked up a lot in conversion, which was really exciting to see. The second one, which is probably not as directly apparent, but we think is probably the biggest strategic advantage for us, and that was our ability to innovate. So like many retailers, we don't make any changes in production between November and through into January, and we call it our peak freeze. And if you look at the fact that we went live in July, that really gives us August, September, and October to make regular changes in the environment. And within those 3 months, we made some major changes and improvements in the overall site by adding around 5 major capabilities. We added Klarna for payments. We released a new version of our buy online and pick up in store and rolled it out to the entire chain of retail locations. We significantly improved our product detail pages. We rebranded and restructured the loyalty program and how it showed up on the site. And we also put stylytics, outfitting all throughout our site. All in all, these are some pretty exciting things to be able to do in such a short period of time, which we would have never been able to do. And since that time, we've just increased our pace of innovation, and we continue to roll out a full host of new capabilities on the system. So that's the journey of Express going to a composable, modern commerce platform.
Thanks, Greg. That was great.
Yeah, it's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Express will always hold a special place in the hearts of commerce toolers for being one of our first bigger enterprise customers all those years ago. But as you in the audience heard, their bet really paid off. So glad to be joined here by Greg today and all your partnership over the years.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's been an interesting journey, and I so glad we decided to go down that path for sure.
Right. So, all those years ago, you made a bet on Mock before Mock was really a thing, right? You signed off on this decision. This was a big deal back then, being on a traditional legacy monolithic platform. And this was before other retailers of any size were adopting this style of architecture. So I guess, why were you so comfortable with this approach? And look, it paid off. It paid off really well, but that was a bit of a contrarian bet back then. Why did you take that decision?
Yeah, what I would say is we've always wanted to control the experience for our users. And so owning the front end and the whole idea of the composable commerce, it just played right into that vision of what we wanted to do and the speed we need to run at to innovate and adjust that customer experience continuously. It's a direction we're headed in a couple other areas, and the team, we had a lot of smart people who really came up with a great idea, and so it was pretty easy to support. And there was a little bit of a risk as far as it being a new thing for us at the time, but quite frankly, got a chance to meet and talk with you, Kelly, and Dirk and the team, and really understand where this was coming from and the level of deep thinking and really opening up the future. So it was one of those things where I'm really glad we made the decision, but it was really based on the expertise that and the good thing was put into the architecture.
Yeah, well said. So question from the audience. Did your business users have to change their mindset because more was possible faster, right? They'd been used to
Yeah,
deploying to
I guess what I
production,
would say
what was it,
is,
once a month?
yeah, it, our business users want to grow the business as fast as we can, right? And a part of that is changing and improving the user experience all the time. So we have a backlog, and from their perspective, this allows us to burn through that backlog faster and finally get to the things that have been on the list, as opposed to just putting out fires and fixing bugs. But so not really, it's just more of giving them what they've already been asking for.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's good. So another question from the audience, how are you reaching younger consumers, right? And because they're all in different apps, different devices. And, I'm old, I'm on Facebook and Twitter maybe, but, I have nieces and nephews who are on all sorts of different apps out there. And it's honestly pretty hard to keep track of all of it. So how do
Yeah.
you as an executive management team figure out where to advertise and how to sell?
Yeah, I mean, I think the first thing is that we have a target audience that we're going for. And so based on that target, we look at where they are. We also spend a lot of time working with investors and venture capital firms to understand where they're seeing growth and what they're investing in. Oftentimes we'll understand different ways of doing business and ideas that haven't really made it in the marketplace yet. And so that's always a great early indicator. And then we watch those things, and when it makes sense, we'll dive in.
And do you have like a third party that you work with to better understand how these apps work? Or do you just have your own folks in house who will download, the app of the week?
Yeah. Yep.
Sure.
So our marketing team is top notch. They are always looking at what the latest social apps are and ways of connecting. We also do studies to understand just sort of demographics and different groups of people and where they're at, as well as we have a number of marketing partners who are also always looking at what the latest is. So it's sort of a combination of things.
Yeah. So you take care of it then, one way or the other. That's good.
Yep.
And what does the in-store experience look like? We had a few questions on that, especially from like
Yeah.
a point of sale perspective, clienteling. What does the store look like today and in the future?
Yeah. So we have a point of sale system from NCR. And so they have the software, and we have various sets of hardware for that. So fixed registers. We also have a mobile point of sale. So that's an iPod with a sled on it that has the dip, so that you can put a credit card in, or you can slide a credit card and do credit card transactions on that. So that's sort of the hardware environment. From the software perspective, in the store, people have the ability to buy items that are fulfilled in the moment, and that's a traditional point of sale transaction. We also have the ability to do an in-store online order. So that is actually hitting Commerce Tools, and it's a order that would be shipped to their home if it's something that we don't have in the store. And then we also have the ability to do buy online and pick up in store. So you can shop for stuff online and see if it's available in a local store, pick different stores, things like that, and then place the order online through Commerce Tools, and then it'll be fulfilled from the store, so they can go in and pick up that order in store or curbside. We also have, we leverage our store inventory. So we will do ship from store as well, using all that same process, but then they just ship it from that store to a person's home. One of the things that we are doing, though, just like we said with what attracted us to Commerce Tools initially and that composable commerce environment, is that we really want to control that front end experience because we want to be able to innovate with that. So we have done a lot of work on what that interaction with the customer is, and we're doing work around having a single set of transactions where you can buy online, pick up in store. Buy in store and have it shipped to your home, along with buying in store items that are actually in store. And so doing that, we're really leveraging those iPods and the iOS environment. We also do things like speeding up returns for in-store returns of e-commerce purchase items. Give us a lot of flexibility, and we can string those things together into different experiences. We'd expect that to merge over time. That interface that we own is really the most efficient thing, because it matches our business process perfectly because we design it.
So correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like you have to have internet now in the store, right? That's a firm requirement to keep a store open, or can you go to an offline mode of some sort?
We have offline for sure. We are always going to take someone's money if they're standing in front of us and want to buy something. It's just, what are all the services that are available? And the trick for us is gracefully removing services when we don't have the online internet connection.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And finally, in the next minute or two we have left, any guidance for other retailers that are going through this transformation, right? You've been live now for a couple of years.
Yeah. I would tell you that,
it's been very successful. Any bullet points?
Yeah, I would say a couple things. One is, I really firmly believe that step-by-step process and breaking up the implementation into pieces that contain risk, so that if you do have an issue, it's a small issue and it doesn't take you off the path that you're on. And so I think that's probably the most important thing. And the second thing for me is performance testing. Absolutely performance testing, because no matter how scalable the platforms are, you're putting different pieces together and you get unexpected results sometimes, and you don't want to inflict that on your customers. So those are the biggest things for me.
That's great advice. That's great advice to follow, I think, for any project, but especially for a newer style mock-based commerce project. So thanks again. Congrats again on your success, and best of luck on your continued success. Thanks for your session and answering the questions.
Excellent. Thanks, Kelly. Really appreciate it.